Hey everybody, it's me, Dr. Amanda Kemp, and welcome to Get Your Chocolate On. Today we're going to have my co-host, Makeda Anthony Kemp, join us. And we're also going to be joined by our Chocolate Labs, Jake and JJ. Jesse. JJ's their cousin. Anyway, so today's show we're going to focus on failure and recovering from failure. So grab your favorite beverage and come on in to Get Your Chocolate On. Come on down, Makeda. Woo! So, as you all probably know by now, Makeda is a teenager, and often we have different perspectives on things, ranging from poetry and, I don't know, sweet potatoes to, middle school experience. We've talked about a lot on this show.
Yeah, we really have.
But today's topic is failure. Like, what do you do when you have failed, when you haven't accomplished what you wanted to, or when you've caused harm, or when you feel like you've just screwed up? So that's what we're all about today. And it's also National Poetry Month, so of course we have a poem for you. If you stay tuned, you'll hear it toward the end. I'm going to share something from Mary Oliver, a favorite. All right, so... Oh, Makeda, failure.
Amanda.
You can call me Mom.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. So, failure. I mean, we all do it, but yet we all hate it. Mm-hmm. And I think we all feel embarrassed and alone when we fail.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of, at least for me, denial in failure. We don't like to always admit that we failed unless it's something on such a large spectrum that you can't deny that it's a failure. I know that's been something for me that I do to make myself feel better, but in the long run, it doesn't really serve me good.
Can you, I don't want to have you break your heart open again, but can you give me an example of a failure that you can deny?
Okay. I didn't get into my number one college choice. And looking back on it now, actually, I don't see it as much as a failure now, so maybe I'm still in denial about it.
But go ahead.
I mean, it was easy for me to put the blame on other things. There's so many students applying to colleges each year. They're not a really good financial aid school. It's just a lot of things that I was able to put the blame on to take that weight off myself, when the truth is, I didn't necessarily apply myself the way that I could have in the college applying process in the first place. And now I'm about to be a transfer student, so I think this failure has really taught me that the next time around when I'm applying to schools, it's your next 4 years. That's why it's so difficult, and slacking off halfway, it's not going to get you where you want to go unless it's an easy goal. And college is not an easy goal.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of stories in that example you gave. One is, so you failed to get in to the college of your choice, and you made up reasons why that was that didn't involve you. And then with some perspective, you were able to say, I actually didn't put in the effort it would have taken to get into school like that. Okay, so you could see your part in it. But what do you do with the feelings? Because to me, this is the real issue with failure, is that most of the times when we fail, we have feelings, and it's the feelings that are more difficult than the failure.
Yeah, I think so, because the feelings tend to call in the question of self-worth.
Yes.
And that's where things get tricky. Things get a little slippery on the slope.
Yeah. Things get very slippery. So you start sliding down, I'm not worthy, right?
Exactly.
I suck. I mean, that's my phrase.
And that could be one failure, but if you have, say, one big failure and two minuscule failures, but they're happening at the same time, it feels so much bigger than it really is.
Yes.
But, I mean, recently I've really been trying to look forward to failure. That's my goal, to almost anticipate it. Because that's the best way to grow, I think. But unless you're a person who moves best by positive motivation,
I kind of am, I have to say.
Too. I will do better if I'm told I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I just want to keep on going.
Yes.
So there's a sense to just give up when you fail, to be like, throw it all out the window.
Yes.
Like, that wasn't for me, I wasn't for it.
Yeah.
And call it that. But I think that's too simple, and that's taking the easy way out. Because I feel like that, especially with that success, feels so much better if you failed once.
Yeah. I think there's also in our culture, and this sort of relates to me to racial justice and liberation culture as opposed to white supremacy culture. Under white supremacy culture, we have it like you succeed or you fail. You're good or you're bad, right?
Super dichotomy.
Right.
Yeah.
But what if we're just always learning? You know, what if we're growing, and if you don't hit the mark the first time,
it's not a definition.
Right, it's not who you are, but it's also not the end of it.
Yeah, I think humans don't give evolution enough credit.
Yeah, especially I feel like under capitalism,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
so like production,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, that's...
And process doesn't get any credit.
No, it really doesn't. And then, I don't know, I was talking to my philosophy professor about this, because he was talking about these awards that are so high up and most desirable, like the Peace Prize and things like that.
Yeah.
It's things that require so much effort that other humans admire it because they don't think they could do that.
Yeah.
And I think those awards are good, but also in some way, it's good to acknowledge people's work, but in some ways bad because it separates them from you, makes you feel like,
Right, you're not extraordinary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When in truth, we all have something beautiful. We have
So true.
We have a superpower. Whew, the chocolate lab just went underneath the camera. But let's talk back to those feelings, because racial justice from the heart. My company, what makes us different is that we don't just look at things from a mental level. We know that our ultimate goal is for everybody to get to be whole.
Emotional liberation.
Yeah, and to be whole, and to not just be some kind of like, automaton who says all the right things but has no feelings.
Yeah.
So, I wonder, if there's something you do when you have a feeling of like, my phrase, and I hope, I don't think I'm the only one, but it's not like I recommend this phrase, I suck. That's a phrase that kind of goes in my mind, over and over again when I fail or when I feel like I've harmed somebody or let people down. So I wonder what, besides not saying negative things to yourself, what would you recommend that somebody do to help them be with their feelings?
I would say ground yourself in reality. Ground yourself in the absolutes. That's always helpful for me. Like when I had crashed my car, for example, and I was on the highway waiting for a tow truck to come. I had gotten in an accident. My friends were with me. I was feeling so extremely guilty, but I just had to stop first, accept what happened. Like, okay, that actually happened, and that was actually me.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And then second, come to terms with what you have. There's so much that you have. And I mean, in my head, I wasn't like, well, what have I succeeded at? But that's sort of the undertone of it. Well, let's say I have a house to go back to. I'm not going to be stranded here forever. Everybody is safe. It's looking at the bigger picture. It really eases some of those emotions for me. But of course, I can't ignore the gnawing feeling in my gut as well, because there's always that side of it. But those are just some of the things I do to relieve that feeling temporarily. And I think for me, I've always just relied on time.
Yeah.
I have the comfort that time will really heal all my wounds and make things less sensitive over time, as long as I'm not denying myself the truth.
Yeah. And I think that's where having a close, like a mentor or, it could be a therapist or someone else who is going to help you keep that broader perspective.
Yes.
And what's cool is when when I have failed, like as a facilitator, or even as a mom, I've had a mentor who helps me see what I've done, what I didn't do, and also to look at it like a learning process.
Exactly.
Rather than as a morality problem.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And when you can turn the corner to, I'm learning here. I'm still learning. I'm no better than anybody else. I'm also no worse than anybody else. I'm just learning on this journey.
Yeah.
Then that can take some of that, weight off of it.
Absolutely. That's exactly what my therapist did to me, because for a while I was having that denial phase, and I told her I felt like the universe was punishing me for things, and I was feeling so much rage with that, because besides like certain mistakes, I felt like I had been doing everything right. I always tried to put good out into the world more than my bad and things like that. And she just said, well, did you ever consider this to be a blessing? And I know that's kind of a common thing. They say, like, view your failures as blessings. Or she said, or consider this to be you in between your blessings. Like, that was all you could do with that, and now there's more to come. It's just time. And whether or not, the universe is really a mechanism moving things to and from you, I think it's just a fact that with time, things come and go. So you can always know that another blessing is coming, because it's fate. It's just bound to happen.
Wow. Yep, so the dogs are barking. So this episode of Get Your Chocolate On, you're here with me, Dr. Amanda Kemp, and my co-host today is Makeda Anthony Kemp, who is a poet and a singer and an elder teen. Pretty soon you're going to be out of your teenage years. So, and we're talking about failure. I wanted to, because it's National Poetry Month, I also wanted to share a little bit of a poem by Mary Oliver that I love, and I've heard other people, sometimes it's made me cry when I've read about it, because no matter who you are or what you've done or what you haven't done, you still belong here. You're still here. You have a purpose here.
And this poem is sort of back to what I was saying about grounding yourself into reality when you get stuck in your negative self-worth cycles or your failures. This poem is all about, like, reminding you what is there, like, take a breath. You'll see when we read it, I guess.
Yeah. So my favorite part of this poem is, it's by Mary Oliver, and it's called Wild Geese. She writes, you do not have to be good. You do not have to walk across the desert for 100 miles on your knees, repenting. All you have to do is to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. I'm going to stop there. Look it up. It's Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. And honestly, my favorite part of the poem is the first line. You do not have to be good. Some of us, I'm a Virgo, some of us have a lot of perfectionism, or just this obsession with being good, being good enough. And she's just telling you, all you have to do is let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Like, start with the basics.
The basics, exactly. Yeah, I think that goes back to what we were saying about the good and the bad, and we don't really address, well, now it's sort of turned into the bad and the extraordinary, and then everything in between. But considering good and bad, there's still a wide space there that's not really acknowledged, and I think the first line of that poem just hits it dead on.
Yeah.
Like, not being good doesn't mean you're bad.
Right. And also, there's something about social media and the whole crafting of the image and your brand and your story brand.
It's an incredible tool, but it will also be our downfall.
Yeah,
Certainly.
because you keep, have you ever heard this phrase, don't compare your insides to other people's outsides?
It's literally social media. And I don't know. I almost get angry when I see people trying to present their best form, because I'm like, you're upping the standard.
Yes.
And for those who don't care that much, it comes off poorly on social media,
Yeah.
I think. But I mean, if you don't care, you don't care. But that's just something I've noticed. It's frowned upon to not want to fake an image of yourself to others.
Well, I think one of the things that I like is when I see people who are famous without makeup, when they don't look great.
I don't know why we don't see that more.
Yeah.
It's so important.
And, like, for example, people who see me, I'm 53, so people who know me from when I was a little girl or when I was in high school, they see me, if they haven't seen me for decades, they're like, oh my gosh, you still look the same. And I think what they really mean is, you're still the girl who would wear mismatched socks and, shoestrings from different shoes. And I don't know, what can I say? I think it's good to be who I am. I like to wear relaxed stuff.
Well, one thing that's ignored that actually I recently started doing is I look at celebrities' like makeup and dress processes for going to things like the Met Ball or things like that, or being actresses, where it seems like their beauty is almost like, oh, it just happened that way. But if you see the background process, you understand that these feel like they're almost being created to make you feel less than. It's hours in makeup, hours in hair.
And then, what do they call that? Photoshopping?
Photoshopping. That doesn't help anybody.
I mean, those images are like...
We've become obsessed with, like, the perfect humans.
So yeah. And in terms of racially, cultivating a positive racial identity, then we have, Makeda knows that I have this love-hate relationship with Beyonce. Like, before, I just hated her. And now I've come to appreciate her, too.
You talk about Beyonce every episode.
Every episode of Get Your Chocolate On. Just because I think she became this ideal for beauty, especially for black girls, that was very expensive. Like, they had to purchase it.
Yeah, that's what... I really also feel frustration when I see black female celebrities wearing weaves, lace fronts, and stuff like that. Now, I feel like, sure, it's your choice, but if you're doing it all the time, you're putting out a certain message about what black women should look like. If we could have women like Cardi B or Beyonce showing their natural hair textures more often, it would just... Like, again, it's about raising the standard for everybody. When you're doing that, people are expecting the rest of us to do it too. And it's expensive weaves. It takes time. And then,
I mean, honestly, how does it affirm a healthy racial identity?
Exactly.
If you feel like you have to somehow compensate for your lips, you have to shade so your nose will look pointier, or you have to straighten your hair or buy hair that's kind of straight.
I was thinking, I don't know if people understand how actually weird it is, how weird it feels to wear a wig. You're stifling your own hair, like your scalp cannot breathe. There's something so limiting about that feeling compared to the feeling of like having your hair free and just feeling the wind in it even. I just don't think it's fair that black women are that pleasure is taken away from them.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Well, we've drifted back to black hair. Black beauty standards. Beyonce, as you said. Well, it is Get Your Chocolate On. So, Makeda, let's have a little fun, okay?
Let's have a little fun.
Okay, because it's chocolate.
It is chocolate.
So I'm going to ask you a couple of lightning questions, and you just have to answer, exactly.
I got you.
Okay, great. So, favorite male celebrity?
I'm sorry, because the name that comes to my head is not my real favorite male celebrity.
But what came to your head?
Idris Elba, but he's not.
Good. He is one of my favorites, Idris Elba.
He's been on my mind.
You are a hottie. But, okay. Come on, it's okay.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be your real favorite. It's just what came to your head.
Okay, I have to say maybe Brent Faiyaz. He's a singer right now, and he just carries this empathy, and also he calls it empathetic narcissism. Actually, he labels it, and I love that. It's because people with too much empathy, like myself, sometimes we can really be beaten down. So like having that narcissism, it adds a strength to it, and I think that's something that I really would.
Okay, so his name is what?
Brent Faiyaz.
Okay, you heard it here. I have no idea who that is.
Exactly. I'm sorry.
next, Makeda,
Amanda.
what's your favorite hair product?
Oh, probably the Shea Moisture Curl Enhancing Smoothie or the Mixed Chicks Leave-In Conditioner.
Oh.
Although it is $20, so it's
Mixed Chicks is expensive.
becoming my least favorite. But coconut oil is my go-to always.
Yes, we do know you have a thing with coconut oil.
My coping mechanism.
And secondly, your favorite essential oil.
Oh, I have to say peppermint because when you rub it on your temples, it can actually relieve a headache really effectively.
Ooh. Okay, the dogs are barking. And then finally, maybe your... Give us a tip, Makeda. Give us a tip for menstrual cramps.
Oh, some hot water. And this is my second tip. A little icy hot, and you just rub it on your uterus area because it's for muscle cramping and muscle soreness. So I found
These dogs, you said ice. You said icy hot. So we're going to end this episode because the dogs are out of control. But thank you for joining us for Get Your Chocolate On. And if you would like to help us make this episodes, keep us going, we do have a Patreon account under Amanda Kemp. And I'll also post that in the link. Peace to you all. And remember, until next week, keep getting your chocolate on. You deserve it.